Humanity had been making impressive strides in the colonization of their home system, pushing outward with a kind of relentless momentum we had only ever observed in a handful of young species. They had already established footholds beyond Sol before they even possessed a unified interstellar identity. Naturally, the Galactic Council deemed it time for first contact. We followed standard procedure: long-distance observation, infiltration of public networks, and quiet study of their history and socio-cultural development. On the surface, nothing seemed unusual. Like the majority of sapient species, they had warred with themselves for a very long time before achieving something resembling species-wide peace. Yet our researchers flagged a strange absence in their historical records concerning how this peace had actually been achieved. The transition was too clean. Entire centuries of recorded conflict and diplomacy existed in pristine detail. Then suddenly, the event that ended it all was vague, ambiguous, almost deliberately smudged out, as if someone had erased it not to conceal it from others, but to hide it from themselves. Why would a species obscure its own past? Another anomaly soon became impossible to ignore. Homo sapiens exhibited a startling aptitude for technological acceleration. Most civilizations advance on a predictable curve, with jumps correlated to population pressure or resource scarcity. Humanity, however, grew exponentially, not merely fast, but self-amplifying, as if their ingenuity fed off itself. Worse still, they could reverse engineer technologies they had never encountered before. Our pros recorded human engineers taking apart foreign devices, something by brute force, simply breaking them and reconstructing them with eerie accuracy. It was as if they were not learning technology, but remembering it. After compiling these basics, the Council issued authorization for official first contact. No amount of remote surveillance could replace face-to-face interaction, and at some point one had to accept the risk of unknowns. We chose their newest colony in the Andromeda sector as our landing site. Upon arrival, humanity greeted us with celebration, or at least something shaped like celebration. Their joy was hesitant, stiff, as though they had practiced the gesture but did not entirely trust it. And then came the second surprise. Rather than offering us the freedom of their settlement, they restricted our movements immediately. Plasma barriers formed a dome around our vessel the moment we touched down. We were escorted, politely but firmly, to a single quarantine district of the planet. We were not guests. We were specimens. Every few cycles, human officials visited, always in sealed hazmat suits. They questioned us endlessly, but the questions were bizarre. Do you come in peace? Does your species have the capability to lie? What is your history with interspecies warfare? What is the purpose of initiating first contact? These inquiries were the sought-after of pre-FTL civilizations, not a council envoy. Eventually, after cycles of this treatment, I was summoned for interrogation. And I had reached my limit. I demanded answers. Why we were confined like diseased beasts. Why they acted as though we were the threat. The human official sat across from me, his voice muffled by the suit's respirator before being amplified through his helmet speaker. His reply was quiet, almost apologetic, yet his words chilled me more than any threat could have. When we first made contact with alien life, he began, we were ecstatic, overjoyed, innocent. He paused, as if deciding how much truth to reveal. They weren't from our homeworld. The species we now call the Andromedans originally lived on the very planet you are now standing on. A cold ripple crawled from my limbs. They did what you did, he continued. They hacked into our networks, they read our history, they discovered how susceptible we were to disease, and they decided to exploit it. He told us the rest in a flat, steady tone that suggested humans had rehearsed this confession for decades. The Andromedan vessel we welcomed, just one ship, was carrying no diplomats, no scientists, only colonists. Every one of them infected with a pathogen to which they were immune. When we opened our arms to greet them, they answered with blaster fire, but that wasn't the real attack. The real attack was already in the air. He exhaled slowly. The visor fogged. Our population dropped from 11.9 billion to less than 4 billion in a matter of months. My heart froze. Not even the Council archives recorded such an event. You saw a plague in our digital history, he said, but not the cause. We restricted the truth to physical documents only. We knew that someday someone else would come snooping. The interrogation ended shortly after, though interrogation no longer felt like the correct term. It was more a warning, a confession bathed in grief and caution. When I returned to our living quarters, I noticed human technicians swarming our ship. They were dismantling our FTL drive, openly, confidently, while maintaining direct eye contact with our surveillance drones. They knew we were watching them reverse engineer it. They wanted us to know. Even now I do not understand humanity. They reached out to the cosmos with a smile carved by trauma, with fear hidden beneath courtesy, with desperation disguised as diplomacy. They welcomed us, yet imprisoned us. They wanted peace, yet prepared for war. They shared their story, yet withheld parts of it we did not have the clearance to hear. I can only hope their intentions for the Galactic Council are sincere. But as I watched them dismantle our star drive piece by piece, reconstructing it faster than we built it, I feared they were not preparing for friendship. They were preparing for whoever comes next.